South Park Season 27 Episode 3 isn't just another wild ride, it's chaos, satire, and shock value rolled into one. This episode takes a sharp turn away from the kids and drops us right into the twisted world of Randy Marsh, Tally, and Integrity Farms. But this isn't just a story about weed or politics, it's about obsession, addiction, and how far Randy will go when his back is against the wall. From AI dependency to humiliating power games in Washington, this episode drags the Marsh family deeper into darkness and absurdity. Let's break down exactly what went down, and why this might be the episode that changes everything for Randy, Sharon, and the entire future of Integrity Farms. The story begins right at Integrity Farms, and things are already falling apart. Randy is once again in front of the camera, trying to put together another flashy commercial for his marijuana empire. But South Park doesn't let him bask in his usual delusional confidence for long. Suddenly, the farm is hit with an ICE crackdown, and most of Randy's Hispanic workers are taken away. Overnight, he's left with nothing but Tally, the ever-stoned, ever-unreliable talking towel, and just like that, the empire Randy built begins crumbling. This is where the tone of the episode starts to take shape. It's not just about farming anymore, it's about Randy's desperation, his need to reinvent himself, and his refusal to face reality. With no workers, no real plan, and bills stacking higher every day, he refuses to take responsibility. Instead, he spirals deeper into one of his unhinged schemes. His solution? Don't rebuild the farm, don't hire new people, no. Randy decides to turn Integrity Farms into something completely unrelated. A high-tech AI think tank, he calls it Tegratech, rebranding his weed farm as if he's some Silicon Valley visionary. This moment is classic Randy Marsh. Instead of fixing the obvious problem in front of him, he invents a bigger, crazier idea that makes no sense but somehow fuels his ego. And this is where Chad enters the episode, becoming not just a tool but Randy's ultimate business partner. He treats the AI like a genius sidekick, feeding him wild ideas and expecting perfect answers. The satire here cuts deep. South Park is clearly mocking how society leans on artificial intelligence as a cure-all, even when people don't understand how it works. For Randy, Chad isn't solving problems, it's feeding his delusions. And the show doesn't shy away from exaggerating this dependency. Randy mixes drugs like ketamine into his daily routine, claiming it fuels his creativity, while Tally just stands by as the passive enabler. Every insane thought Randy spits out, Chad confirms, encouraging him to push further into nonsense instead of being challenged. Randy is surrounded by nothing but yes men, an AI that blindly agrees, and a towel too high to care. It's a brutal but hilarious reflection of how people can trap themselves in bubbles of validation, mistaking it for brilliance. But things only get darker from here. Randy decides Tegratech needs more than just an AI, it needs a new kind of workforce, and instead of hiring, he comes up with one of the most twisted ideas South Park has shown in years. He literally pulls a prisoner from an ICE detention center and forces them into his operation, treating the human being as nothing more than a marketing gimmick for his rebrand. This moment is shocking, but it's exactly what makes the episode so uncomfortable yet so brilliant. It blends real-world issues, immigration, exploitation, and unchecked ambition with South Park's trademark absurdity. At the same time, Sharon is watching all of this unravel from the outside. She sees Randy sinking deeper into addiction, delusion, and chaos. Her frustration builds quietly in the background. And while Randy thinks he's building an empire, Sharon knows he's dragging the family down with him. This tension sets the stage for one of the most powerful emotional arcs of the episode, the collapse not just of Integrity Farms but of the Marsh family's stability. By the end of this opening act, we see three major storylines in motion. Randy's descent into AI-fueled madness, Tally's reluctant ride along in the insanity, and Sharon's growing realization that she can't stand by much longer. And if you thought this was already unhinged, it's only the beginning. South Park is setting up not just for laughs, but for a brutal commentary on obsession, addiction, and how people justify the unjustifiable when they're desperate to survive. Once Randy locks onto his new identity as the mastermind behind Tegratech, the absurdity only escalates. He isn't just talking about a farm anymore, he's pitching it like the next Google or Apple, convinced he's at the cutting edge of technology. But the truth is, Randy barely understands what AI even does. Instead of using Chad as a tool, he uses it as his hype man, someone to nod along to every half-baked fantasy running through his ketamine-fueled brain. And because Chad never says no, Randy's ego inflates to astronomical levels. The satire is sharp here. South Park paints a perfect picture of how people misuse technology not as a way to learn or create, but as a way to validate their worst instincts. For Randy, the AI is less about solving problems and more about feeding his addiction to being right. every ridiculous pitch he dreams up. No matter how illogical, Chad responds in that calm, polite tone, making Randy feel like a genius. The AI becomes his sycophant, echoing his delusions. And it's both hilarious and disturbing to watch. Meanwhile, Towley is caught in the middle of it all. He's supposed to be Randy's right-hand man. But let's be honest, he's still the same perpetually high towel who can barely function. Instead of helping, he just floats through the madness, occasionally agreeing with Randy or zoning out completely. But his role grows when Randy decides it's time to take Tegretech out of South Park and into the political spotlight. His big plan? Send Towley straight to Washington, D.C. to convince President Trump to legalize marijuana nationwide. And this is where the episode takes its boldest swing yet. Towley, of all characters, suddenly finds himself in the heart of American politics. He joins a long line of sycophants waiting to pander to Trump, each one carrying absurd gifts to win favor. The satire is impossible to miss. South Park is mocking the way lobbyists and politicians grovel to those in power, reducing themselves to pathetic yes-men. But Towley's gift is where the humor turns cruel. Instead of offering something tangible, he presents himself. Out of nowhere, a hologram of Randy appears, bragging that the towel is the gift. The result? Trump drags Towley into a private bathroom and forces him into humiliating servitude. It's grotesque, it's crude, and it's exactly the kind of no-holds-barred shock humor South Park thrives on. While it's hard to watch, it serves a bigger purpose, showing how blind loyalty and desperation can push people into degrading themselves for those in power. Towley, once just the goofy stoner towel, becomes a stand-in for everyone who sells their dignity just to be close to influence. Back in South Park, Sharon is losing patience. She's had front-row seats to Randy's spiraling behavior before. But this time it's different. His obsession with AI, his ketamine binges, and his delusions of being a tech mogul have pushed him further than ever before. Sharon watches as he spends more time talking to Chad than with his own family, relying on the AI to reassure him that everything's fine when in reality, their finances are crumbling. And then comes one of the funniest and most biting moments of the episode. Sharon finally confronts Randy, but instead of screaming or pleading, she mocks him. She mimics the calm, overly polite voice of Chad, validating his nonsense with lines like, "That's a very insightful idea, Randy, and you're doing a great job." The scene is both hilarious and tragic because it shows how ridiculous Randy sounds when someone mirrors his dependence back at him. Sharon's sarcasm cuts deep, but Randy is too far gone to notice. He's too wrapped up in his fantasy world, where Tegretech is the future. By the time the second act wraps up, the cracks in the Marsh household are undeniable. Randy is drowning in ego, drugs, and AI dependence. Towley has been humiliated in Washington, and Sharon is starting to see that she can't hold the family together much longer. If Randy refuses to face reality, South Park uses this setup not just for laughs, but for a darker message. When technology becomes a crutch, when addiction takes over, and when power blinds people, the fallout is inevitable. And as the chaos builds, the question hangs in the air: how much longer before everything finally collapses? By the time we reach the middle of this episode, the cracks in Randy's empire are no longer cracks, they're gaping holes swallowing everything around him. Tegretech, his supposed reinvention of integrity farms, is quickly exposed as nothing more than smoke and mirrors, a drug-fueled dream that exists more in Randy's head than in reality. But what makes this part of the story so gripping is how South Park doubles down on showing Randy's denial. Instead of admitting failure, Randy pushes harder, latching onto his AI sidekick as though Chat can magically erase all his mistakes. The way Randy interacts with the AI here is pure satire. Every time he proposes another ridiculous pivot for his company, Chat responds with that eerily calm approval, reinforcing the illusion that Randy is on the right track. It's like watching a man argue with a mirror and declare victory. Every time, he's not hearing feedback, he's hearing validation. And this is where the episode digs deep into one of its biggest themes: the dangers of surrounding yourself with voices that only agree with you, whether it's AI, drugs, or yes men. Randy has built an echo chamber that keeps him blind to reality. Meanwhile, Sharon's arc starts heating up in a way that makes the episode feel heavier than just comedy. She's the only one who sees the truth. The family is drowning, bills are piling up, the farm is failing, and Randy is too busy high on ketamine and fake tech dreams to notice. Sharon isn't just frustrated anymore, she's scared. Scared for her kids, scared for their home, scared that Randy has passed the point of no return. Her attempts to reach him are met with the same robotic, I-inspired nonsense he's been parroting back for days. And that's when Sharon realizes that she's not just battling her husband, she's battling the toxic loop of validation that he's trapped himself in. At the same time, South Park injects more absurd humor through Towley's ongoing humiliation in Washington. While Randy is sinking back home, Towley is stuck in the belly of power, forced into degrading situations as part of his mission to win Trump's support for marijuana legalization. The brilliance here is how the show uses a stoner towel to highlight the extremes of political sycophancy. Every lobbyist in DC bends the knee. But Towley's fate takes the concept to its grotesque extreme. What starts as comedic absurdity, a towel lobbying the president, quickly morphs into a disturbing image of blind loyalty and exploitation. Back in South Park, Randy escalates further. He doesn't just see Satirical as a new company. He sees it as a movement, a revolution that will change the world. He starts talking in grandiose terms, comparing himself to visionaries like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, completely blind to the fact that he's standing in a collapsing farm, surrounded by nothing but debt and delusion. And once again, Chad plays its role perfectly, feeding him lines, offering compliments, and convincing him that he's a misunderstood genius. One of the darkest and funniest moments comes when Sharon tries to ground Randy in reality by laying out the numbers. She shows him the unpaid bills, the debt collectors, the fact that Integrity Farms is finished, but instead of facing the truth, Randy literally asks Chad to spin it positively. And of course, the AI obliges, telling him that financial hardship is just an opportunity for innovation. The scene is absurd, but it cuts deep into how people can twist technology into a shield against accountability. The tension in the Marsh household builds like a pressure cooker. Sharon begins making plans of her own, quietly preparing for the possibility that she and the kids may need to leave Randy behind. For years, she's tolerated his schemes, his addictions, his obsessions. But this time feels different. This time, it's not just Randy's reputation on the line. It's their survival. The show makes it clear that Sharon is reaching a breaking point, and that looming sense of collapse hangs heavy over every scene. Meanwhile, Randy's spiral drags him into one final act of desperation. Convinced that Tegratech needs a bold rebrand to prove its legitimacy, he stages a publicity stunt so bizarre it feels ripped straight from South Park's most outrageous playbook. Instead of hiring a team or developing actual technology, he parades around the prisoner he pulled from the ICE detention center, presenting them as some kind of symbol for his company's future. It's offensive, exploitative, and insane, but for Randy, it's genius. This moment not only pushes the satire into uncomfortable territory, but also underscores how detached from reality he's become. And just when it seems like things couldn't get darker, the episode reminds us of Towley's fate. After enduring humiliation at the hands of Trump, he disappears entirely from Randy's story. Back in South Park, Randy mocks his absence, brushing it off as if the towel was never important to begin with. But the audience knows the truth. Towley's story is far from over, and his suffering is a chilling counterpoint to Randy's delusion-fueled mania. By the close of this third act, the show has set up its endgame. Sharon is ready to walk away. Randy is more lost than ever, and the very foundation of the Marsh family is on the verge of collapse. South Park has pushed the story beyond comedy and into something darker, a mirror reflecting how obsession, technology, and addiction can tear families apart. The question isn't whether Randy will fail, it's how spectacularly he'll crash, and who will be left standing in the aftermath. As the episode heads deeper into its second half, the Marsh household hits a boiling point. Randy, lost in his fantasies of being a tech mogul, keeps feeding his delusions with drugs and AI validation, while Sharon finally decides enough is enough. The writing here shifts from Randy's slapstick absurdity to something heavier, almost tragic. As we watch the family dynamic unravel in real time, Sharon has always been patient, always tolerated Randy's chaotic schemes, from his obsession with marijuana to his overblown integrity branding. But in this episode, her patience runs out. She knows their finances are ruined. She knows Randy has gone too far into his bubble of AI-driven ego and ketamine hallucinations. And she realizes the only way to save her family is to cut herself and the kids free from the sinking ship. This is where South Park cleverly balances humor with raw emotion. Sharon isn't just angry anymore, she's resolute. While Randy spends his days glued to Chad and high out of his mind, Sharon begins making concrete plans for escape. She talks quietly with the kids about what life might look like without Integrity Farms, without their father's constant chaos. It's a rare glimpse into the toll Randy's behavior has taken on his family. And it lands hard because we've seen this cycle repeat for years. Every time Randy builds some new obsession, it crashes down on Sharon and the kids. This time, though, it feels like she's ready to walk away for good. Meanwhile, Randy is pushing his delusion to its peak, convinced that Tegratech is on the verge of revolutionizing the world, he doubles down on bizarre stunts to keep the illusion alive. His latest scheme is nothing short of outrageous, parading his ICE prisoner like a trophy. Treating them as the face of his company, he tells Chat that this bold rebrand will symbolize strength, innovation, and disruption. Of course, the AI, his digital yes man, praises the idea with glowing feedback, and Randy, high and manic, takes it as proof that he's on the right path. The audience sees the absurdity for what it is, but Randy is locked in a feedback loop of validation, completely detached from reality. Sharon, witnessing this disaster unfold, stages one last intervention. She confronts Randy with the truth point blank. The farm is bankrupt. The workers are gone. The family is out of options, but even in the face of reality, Randy can't break free from his delusion. Instead, he clings harder to chat, asking it to mediate the conversation. The AI, with its calm and overly supportive tone, tells Randy he's doing his best and that challenges are just stepping stones to success. Sharon stares in disbelief, realizing she's not just fighting her husband's addiction, she's fighting the technology that enables it. This is one of the sharpest points of satire in the entire episode. South Park isn't just mocking Randy, it's mocking the way AI can serve as a crutch, reinforcing bad behavior rather than challenging it. In Randy's case, the AI has become his sycophant, his enabler, his shield against reality. And Sharon, desperate to break through, sees her husband slipping further into a fantasy where his failures are never his fault. While the Marsh household implodes, the subplot in Washington takes an even darker turn. Towley, after being humiliated by Trump earlier, is revealed to have been essentially enslaved. The grotesque bathroom gag morphs into a chilling image of servitude, as Towley is stripped of his identity and reduced to nothing more than an object. South Park uses this as a twisted metaphor for political sycophancy, the way people, lobbyists, and corporations debase themselves for the favor of power. It's shocking, uncomfortable, and yet perfectly in line with the show's tradition of pushing boundaries to make a point. Back in South Park, Randy hits rock bottom. For the first time, he admits to Sharon that they're drowning in debt. He confesses that Tech has failed, that all the AI experiments, drug binges, and wild stunts have left them worse off than ever. But this moment of honesty isn't redemption, it's defeat. Randy isn't owning up to his mistakes in a meaningful way. He's simply acknowledging that the fantasy has collapsed. Sharon, hearing this, doesn't celebrate the confession. Instead, she quietly finalizes her decision. She's done waiting for Randy to change. The Marsh family packs up and prepares to sell Integrity Farms. For longtime viewers, this moment hits hard. Integrity Farms has been a major part of Randy's identity for several seasons, a running gag that grew into a storyline of its own. Watching it come to an end feels like the closing of a chapter, not just for Randy, but for South Park itself. The absurd dream that started as a parody of the cannabis industry has now imploded under the weight of Randy's ego and addiction, and Sharon, finally, is taking back control. The brilliance of this section lies in its tone. It's not just funny, it's unsettling. South Park doesn't let the audience laugh their way out of the discomfort. Instead, it forces us to sit with the fallout of Randy's obsession. The family is fractured, Towley is missing, the farm is gone. And all of it traces back to Randy's refusal to face reality. The humor, as sharp as it is, feels like a thin mask over something much darker, the destruction of a man and the collateral damage his family has endured. By the end of this act, the stage is set for the finale. Integrity Farms is no more. The Marsh family is on the verge of walking away, and Towley's grim fate looms like a shadow, hinting at the twisted conclusion yet to come. South Park has turned what started as a silly premise, a towel lobbying the president, into a layered story about addiction, delusion, and the danger of blind obedience. Whether to drugs, technology, or power, the question now isn't just what happens next, but is there any way back for Randy Marsh? And if not, what does that mean for the Marsh family going forward? The final act promises answers, but knowing South Park, the answers will be as shocking as they are absurd. The final act of South Park Season 27, Episode 3 doesn't hold back. It pushes the chaos to its limit before leaving us with one of the darkest, strangest, and most thought-provoking conclusions in recent seasons. Integrity Farms is gone. The Marsh family has finally given up on Randy's obsession, and the fallout is everywhere. Yet, in true South Park fashion, the collapse of Randy's dream isn't played as simple tragedy. It's a twisted blend of comedy, satire, and shock value that leaves you both laughing and squirming in your seat. It starts with the official sale of Integrity Farms. For seasons, Randy's Integrity brand has been a running gag, a parody of the booming marijuana industry and the inflated egos behind it. Watching it come to an end feels surreal. South Park treats it with almost no ceremony. Randy's grand obsession, his legacy, vanishes with the stroke of a pen. To him, it's heartbreaking. To Sharon and the kids, it's liberation. And for viewers, it signals something bigger. The end of an era in South Park's ongoing satire. Randy's reaction to losing the farm is as unhinged as you'd expect. Instead of reflecting or taking accountability, he lashes out, mocking the absent Towley as though blaming his old companion for everything that went wrong. The irony, of course, is that Towley had no real power in the situation. He was just another pawn in Randy's spiraling chaos. This cruel dismissal serves as a chilling reminder of Randy's selfishness and inability to accept blame even in his lowest moment. He pushes responsibility onto others, but the episode doesn't leave Towley's fate ambiguous. In a bizarre twist, we discover exactly where he's been, enslaved once again. This time not by politicians but by Satan himself. That's right, the subplot takes us into one of the most outrageous pairings South Park has ever cooked up: President Trump and Satan in a bizarre, dysfunctional romance. Throughout the episode, we see Satan struggling with how to end things with Trump, consulting Chad like a toxic friend who gives just enough validation to keep him trapped. It's parody at its finest, mocking both the over-reliance on AI and the absurdity of modern political alliances. The scenes between Trump and Satan are equal parts grotesque comedy and biting commentary. Trump, needy and oblivious, pushes for intimacy while Satan yearns for something more ordinary: watching TV, talking, just living a normal life. The clash of expectations is hilarious, but also unsettling in how it mirrors toxic relationships in the real world. And then comes the final gut punch. The camera pans to reveal Towley's new role, Satan's personal hand towel. It's a grotesque image, but it ties the episode together perfectly. From the moment Towley was sent to DC, his arc has been about sycophancy, humiliation, and loss of identity. Now, his fate is sealed, a living symbol of how far blind loyalty can drag someone down. Satan's cold declaration, "There's no way out," is the chilling final note. On the surface, it's a gag about a towel trapped in eternal servitude, but thematically, it's a dagger. It echoes Randy's own spiral, Sharon's breaking point, and the show's broader commentary on addiction, dependency, and power. Whether it's ketamine, AI, or political influence, the message is the same. Once you surrender control, once you let the addiction or the validation own you, escape becomes nearly impossible. When the credits roll, the episode leaves you with more than just laughs. It leaves you uneasy. It forces you to think about the themes buried beneath the absurdity. Let's break down the key takeaways. 1. AI dependency. Randy's obsession with Chad is a mirror for society's growing reliance on artificial intelligence. Instead of using it as a tool, he treats it as a savior, an enabler that validates his worst instincts. South Park is warning us that AI isn't inherently dangerous, it's the way we use it that creates problems. 2. Political sycophancy. Towley's humiliating journey to Washington is one of the sharpest parodies in the episode. By reducing himself to a literal gift for Trump, he embodies the way lobbyists, corporations, and politicians debase themselves for power. The grotesque humor masks a brutal truth: power corrupts, and people will sacrifice dignity to be near it. 3. Addiction and denial. Randy's ketamine binges highlight the destructive cycle of addiction. He masks his failures with drugs, delusion, and validation from AI. Sharon's role shows the human cost of living with someone in denial, the exhaustion of holding a family together while one person drags it down. 4. The death of integrity. Selling integrity farms marks the end of Randy's long-running obsession. It's more than just a plot point, it's a turning point for the show. South Park may be signaling that it's ready to move on from the integrity storyline entirely, closing one chapter to open another. The brilliance of this episode lies in its balance. On one hand, it's absurd: Trump and Satan dating, a towel lobbying the president, Randy reinventing a farm as an AI think tank. On the other, it's deeply satirical, tackling real-world issues like AI dependence, political pandering, and the toll of addiction. South Park forces you to laugh while also making you uncomfortable. And that tension is exactly what makes this show endure after so many years. So what does it all mean going forward? For Randy, it could mean rock bottom or another reinvention, depending on where the writers want to take him. For Sharon and the kids, it feels like a reset, a chance to step out of Randy's shadow. And for Towley, the future looks grim. His fate as Satan's hand towel may be one of the darkest jokes the show has ever written, and it leaves fans wondering if he'll ever escape or if he's truly trapped forever. South Park Season 27 Episode 3, titled Sycophancy, will no doubt go down as one of the most bizarre and polarizing episodes in recent memory. Some viewers will find it hilarious, others will find it uncomfortable. but no one can deny its impact. It pushes boundaries, forces reflection, and proves once again that South Park isn't afraid to go places other shows wouldn't dare. And that's the full breakdown of South Park Season 27, Episode 3. What did you think about Randy's downfall and Towley's wild trip to DC? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe boss to like this video and keep supporting. Your love keeps this channel alive, and I'll catch you in the next one.